Okay, welcome everyone. We are going to get started soon. We're just waiting for people to come in.
I don't know what's wrong with my connection. Can you hear me?
Okay. While we're waiting for people to come in, I'll just, I will stop sharing my screen. Welcome everyone. Okay, and we're just giving it probably one more minute and then we'll start the presentation. Okay, and just a few things to note since we have everyone here, just to make sure that you're on mute as we're doing the panel discussion. There's definitely going to be opportunities for us to have a group discussion, but right now, if you could leave your devices on mute. And so I'm going to go ahead and get started. My name is Camila Sanders, and I am a member of Catalyst 2030, the Sustainable Fashion SME Resources Coordinator. And my organization is called Greater Than Equal. And before we get started, I am going to play a video about Catalyzing Change Week. And it's just a short video, but I'm gonna play the video really quick.
2030 is a movement of social entrepreneurs and innovators embracing collective action to achieve the SDGs by the deadline 2030. Our 1,500 members are active in 197 countries. By emphasizing collaborations, Catalyst 2030 is leveraging the power of the collective to accelerate real change in the lives of billions of people around the globe. What do our members say about Catalyst?
Catalyst 2030 is an invaluable global community of impact entrepreneurs.
Our relationship with Catalyst 2030 has really taught us the power of co-creation.
Join Catalyst 2030 and network, bond, and collaborate with our family members.
And I like the spirit of bringing change makers together to share and learn from each other.
Catalyst really understands the transformative nature of collaboration.
It's also a platform that can give us new tools and resources.
Catalyst 2030 has put my work on steroids.
But most importantly, to come up with solutions that are practical, ways where we can really make things happen, because social entrepreneurs are doers.
Are you a catalyst? Join us to achieve the SDGs.
Okay, welcome everyone. So can everyone hear me okay? If you can, just, okay, good. So I mentioned my name is Camila Sanders and I'm coordinator for the SME Resources Collaboration for Sustainable Fashion within Catalyst 2030. And my organization, we are members, the organization is called Greater Than Equal. And we're really focused on creating or facilitating the creation of a sustainable, ethical fashion industry value chain. And so what I'm going to do as far as the format for this, I will be moderating the panel for SME resources. And what I'll do is introduce what SME resources is and that collaboration within Catalyst. But then we'll do a panel discussion for the first part of it. And then we will also, after that, we'll go into breakouts or have a discussion about, what are the different resources, what are some of the solutions, what are our next steps for this collaboration. And so I will go ahead and get started. So this is a collaboration within Catalyst 2030. We have different groups that are focused on sustainable fashion. A lot of them are doing sessions during Catalyzing Change Week. We have one that's focused on circularity, one that's focused on waste, and then there's another one that's focused on, for sustainable fashion, small to medium enterprises and really micro enterprises too, for resources. And the reason why we thought this collaboration was so important is because we noticed that when it comes to sustainable ethical fashion, that larger organizations that usually cause the bulk of what's going on with the climate have a lot of resources, and they have a lot of money, and they have a lot of connections, they have access to market. But when it comes to micro or small to medium enterprises, they don't necessarily have access to market. They don't necessarily have ways to collaborate or even gain resources, right? Whether it's funding or anything else. And so that's why we thought, within Catalyst, it's very important to address this, right? Because Catalyst 2030, if you research the organization, this is exactly what Catalyst 2030 is about. It's about providing resources to small to medium enterprises. And it's also about creating systemic change. And what that basically means, and that's kind of what our focus is, today, is that you are creating change that is actually going to make an impact and is going to last. And there's definitely if you're interested in systems change, there's definitely a lot of resources within Catalyst to dive a bit further into that. So with that, I am going to, and this is, I will say this is a collaboration that anyone can join. So if you're interested, there will be information after this, and you can also email me to get access to our meetings. And some of the things that we'll be doing with the collaborations are, one, highlighting a lot of different people that have resources for small to medium enterprises, also highlighting what different small to medium enterprises do, because a lot of us, if we just know what each other does and where we each work, then we can all collaborate together. So there's a lot of different great things in store, and I'll put my email in the chat. You can reach out to me if you have any questions or want to join up. Excuse me, and I'll share that information afterwards. And so I am going to go ahead and get started with the panel discussion. And so we have a few different people on the panel. And if you could just introduce yourselves, our panelists today.
I'm Rupa Mehta, and I've been working in Fairtrade, running a Fairtrade social enterprise in Calcutta, India. And we work with artisans, we work with textile workers, embroiderers, printers, and we are in fashion, together with home and wellness and other things. But fashion is big for us as well. And more than that, I'm the president of the World Fair Trade Organization, and that again has a large membership across 70 countries of fair trade enterprises, social enterprises, and which are all looking at creating the right environment for for communities, for enterprises to flourish. And Fairtrade has very supportive systems and community and collaborations within its network. But what we are now seeing is that Fairtrade, again, even from the WFTO point of view and as social enterprises, we see that it's part of larger social movement. And that is why collaboration requires so much more attention, because we know that we can't go at it alone. Whether we are a network or an organization, you need to collaborate with others to bring in the kind of systemic change that we are looking for. And that's huge. You know, it's ambitious, it's audacious, but yes, it is something that we're all committed to do. And these are steps and part of a journey, yes. So I think we go to Tracy. Is she there? Yeah.
Sorry, my bandwidth is a bit bad. Thank you. Nice to meet everybody. My name is Tracy Gilmour, and I'm based in Cape Town, South Africa. And I'm the co-founder of a social enterprise called the Clothing Bank. And the Clothing Bank has built amazing power partnerships with all the retailers in South Africa who donate their pre- and post-consumer waste to our program. And we use this waste as an opportunity to help unemployed South Africans start businesses. So we run a 2-year training program where we go really deep and we build strong collaborations with the women in our program, and we're on this journey together. So we teach business, finance, life skills, and give people access to real decent living wage. So they're earning a decent income through this program. So it's been an incredible journey that we're on. And we now have 5 branches around the country, and we can support about 1,500 women a year through our program. So it's just been incredible to see how power partnerships helped us to grow. So absolutely, collaboration is key.
Shall I go? Yes.
Of course.
Hello, everyone. So this is Bhavini Parikh here from Banco Junko. We are into the textile upcycling. We make garment, home furnishing, accessories from the unused pre-consumer textile scraps and we provide the work to the women and help them to generate the livelihood. I would like to share. Let me check if I can. Yeah. Not possible. Thank you. So we work with the women, we train them, we work in a rescue home, shelter homes, provide them to learn the different techniques of the scrap, making the fabrics from the scraps, and help them to generate the livelihood. We also take the products from them and they can also sell on their own. We help them to sell it on the online platforms and many more. Yeah, thank you. Over to Camilla.
Thank you. Thanks for those introductions. And so we, as a team, have uncovered a few different issues that we think are important that we will touch on today during this session. One of them is collaborations, just the importance of collaborations. What are some of the solutions that we can do within collaborations? Another is funding and innovative business models. Also policy and lobbying, and then advocacy and raising citizen awareness, and market penetration and market access. So that's where our conversation will center around those different topics about what are the issues, what are some of the solutions. And so I'm going to go ahead and jump into the discussion and kind of ask Tracy, can you start our conversation off? Sorry.
Yes, sure. Yes, sure. So with the collaborations, I can give you a bit of history. So we started the Clothing Bank in February 2010 when we realized that there was this huge amount of retail waste within the retail supply chain, and how if we tapped into that waste, we could really use it to help unemployed South Africans start businesses. And we also understand that we needed to give them the core skills on how to manage and sustain their businesses. So we approached our retail partners and we had to align ourselves with their values and find champions within these organizations that we were partnering with that would push our cause for us internally. And that's how the collaboration started. And we had shared interests. Accountability is really important as well. And then we can learn from each other's mistakes and each other's successes. So we're building strong culture, which changes behavior. And the ecosystem that we have within our organizations, all around creating a safe space where people can come and heal, because lots of South Africans have been through real trauma. So they can come and heal, and the trust is so important. And build that real trust, and relationships are like key to everything that we do. And we offer a lot of support, coaching and mentoring, as well as friendships that form are also so powerful. And the other thing is professional development is important. So how do we train people with the skills they need to set up their businesses and sustain them? So it's very, very important to build it. Like we have in our classrooms, it's very interactive. It's very practical. So it's all about meeting people where they're at, and then we're working together. So we focus a lot around care and growth. We always talk about care and growth being part of our ecosystem. And then the reality is everybody needs to earn an income. So, I mean, collaboration is very much around empowerment. It's not just us engaging. It's around like going really deep and empowering people to take ownership and have a voice, especially with women. And then when you work with mothers, you really understand that the household is at the core of our economy. And if we can grow moms, that it's breaking that cycle of poverty, and it's eradicating poverty very much in their lives. And the generosity that we experience from our retail partners is on another level. Just to give you a sense of scale, we receive nearly 2 million items a year from our retail partners. So this is all things that would have maybe gone into a landfill, and now they're coming and being repurposed into opportunities for women to earn decent income. So our journey has been incredible with collaboration. We've had people, training service providers that have come with their skills and their accreditation to partner with us. So at times we have been in situations where we are feeling vulnerable. And when you're collaborating, people will really come and support you and help you and share their ideas with you. So, collaboration is all around people and teams, and it's building effective processes and constantly communicating. And that is so important. So we're having this we share our vision and we share our values constantly with our power partners. So it's been an incredible journey over the last 12 years. Yes, challenges, curveballs get thrown all the time. And that's when you can reach out to these strong relationships. It might be someone with legal skills. It's the same as our board members. Our board members are very invested in what we do. So they've been with us for years, and they keep us accountable, which is great. And we've built this culture over the years so that we can see our behavior has also shifted. So it's been an incredible journey. And I'm also always willing to share with our model with anybody, because there is the ecosystem creates that sweet spot, and it's all about relationships, and we're all on that same path. We're all wanting to see the change happen. But then it is really, really powerful, and it's really, really interesting. And we're working with the most incredible women. And when people are feeling in the part of the collaboration, part of the culture, and you put the tools down, people pick them up and really make those tools work for them. So it's not just about preaching and teaching, it's about working together and we're all pieces of that puzzle. And it was about 10 years ago, we met a woman called Vivian Schultz, and her background is in occupational therapy. And we've been going for about 2 years, and my partner, another Tracy's a common name in this age group, we were both feeling exhausted. We weren't understanding what was an amazing opportunity. What's going wrong? And Vivian basically told us that we had to go and do the self-work first. We needed to look in the mirror and identify, because all of us are human beings, we're all under construction. So we had to identify where we were stuck. And for me, I think what I was doing is I was just rescuing everybody. And when you rescue people, that's not collaboration. That is just basically saying, don't worry, I'll do it for you. And that's not empowering anybody. So Vivian has also been a real incredible power partner of ours, because she made us do a lot of the self-reflection and the self-work so that we can understand where we also fit within this puzzle. So even today, she still helps us a lot with constantly growing and learning. So it's been a great journey. So that's kind of in a nutshell.
Yeah, that's great. And I like how you say that it's not just everyone's talking, it's actual like results and things that are beneficial. And then also it's not really like the top down, it's how can we actually collaborate and create solutions that are beneficial to people. Do any of the other panelists have any ideas on collaborations and how to do it, and what are some of the solutions that are effective within for collaboration?
Yeah, I think that was amazing what Tracy brought to the discussion. And yes, the key to collaborations really, and this is what we are learning every day, is how you look at the greater good, right? How you know, whatever you're learning and sharing, there is a generosity of spirit in doing that. And you never move away from the goal. Like I said, when I was talking initially, that if we are looking for big change, and when you look for big change, you realize how small we are, you know, in what we do. We are, even as a network, of course, Catalyst 2030 is a big network, but even within this big, large network, to find our space and to collaborate with the right people, or people who align themselves to what we are working towards, it requires an attitude. It requires, you know, certain internal shifts in ourselves to say that, okay, now this is larger than what we do, and we need to sort of work together and create that, you know, like Tracy said, a sweet spot or a space for trust, for learning, sharing, and acting. I think it's all about taking appropriate action. So I just wanted to bring that point in. Yes, thank you. Thank you, Tracy. Thank you, Camilla.
Yes, any other comments from the panelists on that? So our next, and I think that was absolutely great. So I think our next point of discussion is about funding and building capital and innovative business models. And Bhavini, can you take us or start the conversation on that?
Yeah, thank you, Camilla, and thank you, Rupa ji and Tracy, for this wonderful discussions. Yeah, so as we all know, if any innovative ideas, or we need a funding to develop and commercialize them, you know. So understanding the raising of the capital is a vital business skills, and you will need money whether you are looking to start a new business or you are growing your business. So first of all, for exploring the funding also, we need to find out the amount we need, the nature of the projects, then making the business plan, management team, your customers, your products, and so on. Here, I would like to share my experience when I've thought of making this upcycle fashion product. And at that time, I had applied in one startup competition in 2019 almost. So they've selected from 3,000 application they got, and they selected. So my Banco Janko is in first 100, and they told me to send the business plan, but I don't know how to make the business plan, you know, and that is the challenge. You will not be able to sustain for a longer period of time if you don't have the business with the financial requirements and everything in your hand. And then after that, I was selected in V Foundations, incubations, and all that things. During that time, I learned how I can do these things, how we can get the fundings, and till today we were on a self-funded business. Yeah, but if we want to grow on a large scale, we need to know the equity and grants and so many things. Yeah, we got the grant from the Visa in the really critical state during the COVID. The Visa company, credit card company, they have selected 3 women all over the India, and one of them, we were the one of them. So one more important thing, without financing, if we are not not be able to sustain because still the people are not aware about this upcycling fashions and so on, you know. So there is a lots and lots of challenge for financial things. Yeah. Secondly, that there is no any other policies or anything those can help you in the finance and all that things. So as for to run the sustainable business, we need to know about more about the funding, financial, many collaborations is needed. If someone can guide, you can do from this. So like that, there is a requirement for all these things. Yeah. So over to you, Camilla.
Yeah, so I would love to ask like the full panel, what are perhaps some solutions so that small to medium enterprise can get access to funding or even awareness? Because I think there's probably is funding out there, but you know, how do we help to funnel that or even create new business models so that we can bring in capital? Rupa, were you gonna add to that?
Yeah, I think it is, and there are other groups in Catalyst 2030 who are looking at how funders can shift, you know, their focus, not to make it so donor-centric projects, but to make it project-centric funding, and to be more sensitive to the needs and the vulnerability and how that is being impacted today, because there is an environment where, you know, we do talk about trade and climate justice. So if we are going to be looking for the kind, for instance, what Bhavini said about when you're looking to grow, to have a presence in the marketplace. And I know that's a point I'm going to link it with that, because when you talk about business plan, I think the marketing strategy and the need to get into the market. So the funders to understand that, you know, that the impact of how businesses were run, the impact of it on people, on climate, on just keeping people in continuous poverty and exploitation and all that we know and why we are there. And fashion, with the consequence of fashion. We've seen what it is about when you talk about fashion, when you talk about sustainable fashion. And why is it? I think there is one, lack of fund, and as Bhavini said, lack of knowledge and understanding. So this, you know, to get funders and donors to have that recognition, to realize and take responsibility, I think that is the action point. And here I'd say, I think there is, while we are having this session, almost there's simultaneously possibly another session on funding and how you get funders, you approach funders and get them to be more sensitive to. So this is what I think is very, very important. And you can't move ahead first even for business skills, for getting that not even that, even to be able to articulate, to be able to have that understanding on how you make a proposal, how you make a business, even for that funds it's required. So it's one of those, you know, catch-22 situations. So yeah, that is there. And for the markets, I'll bring that point in, because that is also something which I said I talk about, Camilla, if it's all right with you, because these are linked. And I think that there is so much conversation. You know, we just had the Fashion Revolution Day and Week. So there was so much noise in the social media. But then when you're talking about and you're trying to create that consumer awareness and that buy thoughtfully, I mean, you start at home, you start with yourself. You know, we talk about self, then with your family, with everyone, you know, just make the right choices. But where do you go? In India, we've seen so many lovely young brands, sustainable brands. So now people, instead of shopping at H&M and Zara, are going to these places. But those brands had the ability, they had the resources, they had the articulation, they had the skills to make that presence And that market access and market penetration is, of course, to enhance incomes and livelihoods and bring about the change which we need in these communities. But it's equally about giving people a choice, because if we, through that market access, if we are there, we are present, then people can make those choices that, yeah, this is a good enterprise, this is a good company that we can go to. So I think these are very, very vital, and the action we can take here is also, again, with our sharing, with our space, find out who the people are who can help us out. Consultants, there are very many, and who can help us evolve that marketing strategy, who can help us evolve the communication skills, to tell stories, to know. And I know that within Catalyst 2030 there's a lot happening there, and I'd really, in the breakout room, I'd be excited to hear more about it. Yes, thanks, Camilla. And over to you.
Thanks, Rupa. With regard to funding, I was getting at some thoughts. I think it's important to prove the concept if you're going to approach a funder. It's very important to do that first. And what we do a lot with is working with the business model canvas to help people figure out their businesses there. And then sometimes as the middleman, it's easier for us to get the funding, and co-funding is very important. So it's important to have some kind of revenue stream coming in for yourselves, as well as getting some co-funding. That you can see that definitely makes a difference. And make sure that you've got a tool that you can do monitoring and evaluation. So we use the Poverty Stoplight tool, and that's a powerful tool because then it really can tell your story, with data as well, which obviously donors do like that. So collecting the data and showing the facts and telling the story is important. So it's proving that concept, and sometimes being the middleman, it is easier for you as an organization to fund the micro entrepreneurs, but just telling your story and sharing that data is important.
Yeah, and so I'm so glad that this is being recorded because there's so much information, so really good information, and this is why we have this collaboration, is so that we can go back and kind of dissect those different solutions and connect people with the resources. So you talked about the business model canvas. We'll have to do another, a session on what that is and how people can use that. And then we talked about how to connect with funders and telling your story and, having a plan, so just to be able to dive into that in the future. And then also, possibly educating funders on how this connects to what some of their mission is. So thank you for that. So I would like to go to Rupa and talk about government policy and lobbying and how that's connected to resources. You're on mute, Rupa.
I believe that, if businesses have flourished, if industry has flourished, if multinationals have moved, they've got support from governments. And they have captured, government attention. To have that shift, it's so important for policies to be pro small and micro and medium enterprises, because these are the change makers, and also to recognize that collectively these small enterprises do contribute to the economy, to employment. And today we are also seeing that, the way businesses have grown, they are, and the way they work, their policies, their practices, and the impact on climate and subsequently on people. So, and here governments can play a big role through regulations, because, things didn't happen in a day. And in these smaller communities where these small enterprises are based, they have a natural relationship, connectivity with the environment around them, and their practices have always been excellent. But and environment sustaining. So why I bring this point in is because there is such an overwhelming shift away, and in many developing countries, because of the way we measure growth, the way governments see development, and the GDPs and growth. So I think we have a big role to play, and all of us are not the best lobbyists, but maybe a larger Catalyst 2030 group, that how important it is to lobby, to get attention, to be heard, and for the governments to be pushed where they are taking responsibility. So policies will evolve out of that, because I also believe that for any sort of substantive change, and within a particular period of time, I mean, within a specified, if we talk about 2030, I think this action is so important. And contrary to what I'm saying, while there are governments, we just had COP26, and that means 26 times international bodies have met to address global issues, right? But how much progress was made? So our task, and particularly in our own countries, because you can't go beyond that, lobbying plays a huge role. And it is going to be I feel it's going to be a very, very tough ride. But yeah, there are people in governments who do give voice to, who will give a ear and will listen. But it's our responsibility to, like we talked about the funders, with governments, it's even harder, but we need to work on that. So that is a very, very important action which is required. And maybe within, like I said, within our Catalyst 2030, we need to know which is the most appropriate, and which we can, where we can feed in for what people should lobby for this sector, and in the sustainable fashion. Yes, Camilla, thank you.
Yes, and we know that was great. And I think within sustainable fashion, we haven't seen enough government involvement. And so it's about communicating that. And then perhaps in the future, there's definitely a process that you can go through to lobby in different areas, right? In different countries. And so, it's about bringing in those resources to help go through that process and perhaps train people on how to lobby. And as a group, if we have a large collaboration, that can be very effective, because more than one person doing it for the area, for that cause. Any other comments on government or lobbying?
So here I would also like to put one point. If there are many CSR and many things is going on, right? So if under this CSR or anything, maybe big brands can give us some little space for this new upcoming sustainable fashions or something, some space for marketing basically. So they can create more awareness directly or indirectly, and that they can get the benefit, like if they can give the space in the airports or in any malls or anywhere. So maybe they can get the benefit. So mainly I believe in I mean to say that the marketing is needed for the upcoming sustainable fashions and all that things, because still people are not much aware about it, or maybe they don't want to try it. If they will get, they will like, they are going to buy it, and maybe directly or indirectly they will support it, So it is needed to be visibility available for this type of the brands. Thank you.
Yeah, and so that's a good segue to our next topic, which is consumer awareness or citizen awareness and advocacy. And I think as of course, you mentioned corporate sustainable responsibility and how there's, large corporations, they have the resources, they have the budget to spend on all this. But what if we connect with that, or what if we join together as small to medium enterprises and create our own, marketing or campaign where a lot of us can be represented. And so I would love to get the feedback from the panel on how do we raise citizen awareness for micro or small to medium enterprises in sustainable fashion.
Shall I go first, Camilla? I've
Yes,
just been
go ahead.
talking
Go
so
ahead,
much.
Rupa. Yeah,
No,
yeah.
I think we've learned from the way Fashion Revolution, you know, makes a noise and has engaged so many people in it. I think you have common messages, and we have social media, and each of us sort of commits to that, you know, that we have to tell our stories and learn. And there's a session on effective storytelling, I think, tomorrow. But, you know, telling our stories, being out there. And one of the things which, again, it's from COVID, I think a lot of us got expertise in social communication and in, you know, and how to reach people. So I think it's more about engaging people, and advocacy is something that has to be consistent. We can't sort of send a message out today and then forget about it for 3 months, or, you know, an event is happening, or if we have a particular collection and we put it out there. If you talk about advocacy and making that shift for the consumer, they need to know first that internal shift within them to realize, and how we message and communicate to them in the messaging, in the story, is what will capture their attention. And for that, I'm sure that, you know, there'll be people who can guide us here. And even within our group, we have that expertise. So one part, of course, is that. And the second part is actually putting things which would appeal to them, and sustainable fashion can do that. And it is, and I also feel that if we as a group can also create those connections, collaborations with, say, Fashion Revolution or any other body. So the minute it sort of grows, your connections grow, then the messages can be amplified. But here again, it's a question of collaboration. So it may not be about the clothing bank or about Banco Junko or about Sasha or a third, but it is about sustainable fashion, you know, and to create that shift, to create that impact. And, you know, young people are looking for it. I believe that. And then in this month itself, I'll have the opportunity, as I'm sure many of you do, is to address young people who are already coming to a particular space, either it's fair trade or social enterprises. They're coming there already because they want to know. They want to understand. They're hearing about it, but they want to. So this is an ongoing thing. So the action could be, one could be that we look out, and we talked about it in our group as well, look out for networks and initiatives that promote the cause of SMEs, that promote the cause of sustainable fashion. I can think of Nest, Aid to Artisans, and I'm sure Fashion Revolution is the most obvious, and it's in so many countries, but there might be some others. And then when you have a campaign, or then you follow up within your own enterprises by you know, sticking to the message, and it's continuous, and your reach will grow. So that is something I believe in, and I think people are ready, because ever since, you know, the Dhaka crisis, I mean, the Dhaka tragedy, that we did get that attention. The public attention is there, but now work and to be accessible, you know, to know that there are hundreds and thousands of such alternatives which people can turn to. Tracy?
Yeah, and
I think we also find that it's very beneficial working with our power partnerships, because, you know, the major retailers and our funders and et cetera, they share our story for us on their platforms as well. So there's lots of conversation also happening at the moment about extended producer responsibilities. So that language is kind of out there, it's happening. So people are looking for articles on this and trying to understand deeper. So sometimes we've got to be like nudged or incentivized to do the right thing. And this is really kind of in that space right now, where what's happening, especially in South Africa. People are trying to do the right thing, but then we're trying to align the commercial and the social economy. That's what we're trying to work together on that. There are challenges, but that's what we have to try and do.
Yeah, so I like what both of you are saying about amplifying small to medium enterprises, right? And using larger groups that are doing a lot of work to amplify that message. And then also, you know, we all know about greenwashing, right? And so it would help to get the message out there, what people are actually doing, because I think when you talk to and understand the story of some of the smaller enterprises, you can see that it's authentic, right? You know that it's authentic. And so I think that's really important. So just to move to our last topic, we're going to talk.
One point I'd like to say, we don't only talk about greenwashing, we also talk about social washing in this group, because to be sustainable, you have to be socially, economically, and environmentally sustainable. I thought that point, because it usually, the connection is always with the, you know, environment, but we need to expand the conversation. Yes.
Yes, and I'm glad you mentioned that. And for me, you know, when being in this space, I always think of sustainability and ethics in the same, you know, because of our background, we think of the same thing. But just to make that clear, very clear, that it's not just about sustainability, it's not just about the planet, it is about the ethical practices of the company. And a lot of larger companies are very focused on the environment, but they're not focused on the ethics and the social part of that. And I think a lot of small to medium enterprises already have that ingrained in everything that they do. So thanks for bringing that point up, Rupa. And so our last topic of conversation before we go into the breakout rooms and hear from everyone else is market penetration and market access. And I would love Rupa to kind of guide us on that and talk about what are some of the issues and what are some of the solutions.
Yeah, I did sort of talk about it when we talked about funding. I think it's skills, you know, not to have the skill to really be able to first have the market readiness for larger markets. And which of course means resources, but resources are, you know, not only technical resources, knowledge, expertise, management resources, and of course also cash flows to be ready for it. And there is a market, because it is an attitude, you know, there is a market. When we talk about marketing strategy, it is an attitude that, yes, when we talk markets, it is to be how equipped you are to, you know, as somebody said, getting the right product in the right place at the right time. So that is one capability which, you know, small and medium and micro, medium still are in a better space, will require. And then, you know, it's a crowded marketplace. So even getting in the expertise to guide it, even I know in our organization, despite the long years of experience, we have someone working with us to refine the stories, to refine the offering, to extend the market, to match me. So, and there are resources out there. There are, of course, fund is required, as Bhavini very rightly put it, but there are resources. So the action would be that if we can identify these resources, right? Who are the consultants? Who are people in the sector who would be willing to do it either voluntarily, because even for them, and if they say that, okay, we did this work with this a particular enterprise and we took them from point A to point B or point C. So pragmatically, it also, they get the afterglow of it, also that. So in very practical terms, I think market penetration is a tough one, but it's not impossible in today's situation. If we are doing advocacy, if we are raising consumer awareness, then the marketing, if we are very clear of what kind of capabilities are required, and then step by step that can happen. But it is something that and micro enterprises would need nurturing, and we've seen it, where I think all of us who are in this room, we are working with enterprises, and we individually have, the capability to access these resources and make it available. Yeah, so funds and this would go together, advocacy, funding, and government support, where government might give tax holidays, or they'll give subsidies, or they organize events, where all expenses are paid, and then you have a big exhibition or a trade show, or, so all these things eventually get linked, Camilla. And then you can, there's no linearity to it, but, all these topics eventually will lead to getting that market penetration and then market access. But these tools are required. So funds are required, expertise is required, building capability is required, yeah.
Yeah, thanks, Rupa. Just a small contribution from my side is that in Africa and India, we've got a growing population. So there's opportunities to create markets as well. I'm not saying I know anything specifically about that industry, but there was one of the catalysts, someone was contributing the other day saying how they created a market. They were doing a healthcare program, a medical aid program for women working in factories, and how they created their own market. And it'd be nice to learn more from people that create markets with their products.
And then you have Creative Dignity, which was a network which came up during COVID. And Creative Dignity is also doing a lot of work, again, more with organizations. There was somebody came in, excuse me, huh? So more with organizations which are working with many small enterprises, and they are actually doing a lot of work in this area as well in India. And I think individually, to organizations, there's more sharing, there are forums, and very matured organizations as well in India that are doing a lot of work to reach the Indian customer. So that is happening, yeah. And there are lessons to be learned for sure. And yeah, but change again, shifting consumers towards more sustainable is also a niche audience at this time, and that has to grow. And the future is with the young, yes.
Yeah. Yeah, so really good points about, there's resources out there. There's larger organizations or organizations that are actually doing it and have reached market penetration that we can learn from. There's the resources are out there as far as like consultants that we can all connect with, as long as we know who they are and kind of bring them into this collaboration. And so, that's definitely in, like you said, with market penetration, everything kind of connects together, right? All the different learnings from all the topics that we had. So the next part of our session is really hearing feedback from everyone else about your ideals of what some of the issues are and what some of the solutions are, and just any maybe questions or comments on the things that we address. Panelists, do you want to do a breakout or do you want to just kind of do a group discussion? I'll let I'll let y'all decide.
I think we can do a group discussion. I'm okay with that. I don't know how Tracy and Bhavani feel about it. Yeah.
Yes, I'm happy with that.
I'm also okay
Okay.
with yes.
Okay. So we'll, since we have a smaller group, we'll just do a group discussion. I'm going to put the different topics into the chat. So we talked about collaborations. How can we collaborate? We talked about funding and capital and having different business models to bring in capital. And then we talked about government, policy and lobbying and advocacy, raising citizen awareness. We talked about market penetration and market access. So if anyone has any additional comments, I know we have some great people within our audience that are also very knowledgeable. So if you have any questions or based on our conversation or any comments, that would be great. We can open it up now. Anyone, don't be shy if you want to say anything. And if you want to put it in the chat too, please feel free to also put it in the chat and I can either read the chat or okay, I think we have something in the chat. There's often a customer's concern about prices when it comes to sustainable fashion. What do you think of this and how do you address it? And so I'll give that to our panelists. What are your thoughts on price and sustainable fashion? Tracy?
I think that's a reality, isn't it? Are you referring to new products that are coming onto the market that are 100% cotton and wool and things like that are expensive?
Yeah, I'm going to say yes, because like for me, when I think of sustainable fashion, it's not necessarily about purchasing, because there's, all different things that you can do as far as like reuse and thrifting or, just making your own things out of something that you already have, or just wearing what you already have. And so I'm going to assume that, when we're talking about how expensive it is, we're really talking about the real cost of fashion, or the real price that it actually is versus the lower prices. And so what are your thoughts on that?
I think it is more quality, so it is going to last longer. And do we really need a cupboard full of so many products that we have, and we only wear 10% of them? I think creating more awareness of that is important. Because honestly, if we look in our cupboards, how much don't we wear of the stock that's sitting there? So the quality of that merchandise is better.
I mean, what you pitch is, see, first of all, it's natural material, and then it's not necessarily trendy. It's like timeless, like we have the sari. I mean, I have my grandmother's saris, but it's beautiful. It's either vegetable dyed or it's made with care and it's got quality. And I really find that if you have that quality, like hand finish and all the rest of it, and people know that this is it, it was hand done, it's precious. So that precious, because people spend. I mean, you walk into Zara, it's a load that you offload. I mean, you walk at the little at least in India, the sustainable brands which are there, even their cuts, it's not going to be, you won't be taking out 20 collections in a year. No, not every month, every capsules and this and that, this season, it's in, out, in, out. So as Camilla said, it's a true cost. And I don't know about others, but I know people who have kept a shirt in their cupboard, which is made of khadi, if you know that's hand spun, hand woven fabric, and it was styled by a very good designer who was working with this community, and Wendell Roddick's, and he's very well known, and he lent his name. And I have a blouse like that, and it's going to go with my I'll have it all the time, and that's what it is. it stays. As you said, the lifespan is longer, and it is just, and you don't feel you're dated. You're dated. I think there's a hand up, Camilla, Hillary.
Yeah, so before we, so Rupa, first, like, I completely agree. I think it's about shifting citizen mindsets, right? On what is quality clothing. And it's okay to actually love something and value the thing that you have. And it's the same way with artisan made goods, or, it's the same thing with clothing. Like, you want to have meaning behind and really love the things that you have, right? And so I think a lot of it is about shifting mindsets. And Hillary, I see your hand is up. Did you have any comments on that or another question?
Hi there. I am not camera ready, therefore I am going to keep my camera off. It's early where I am in Canada. I have a concept I would like to share, and so it's building on everything here, because I marvel at all of you, and I thank you deeply for the work you're doing, and the pioneering that you've been doing in a field that desperately needs it. And what has struck me throughout the conversations of sustainability that I've been at myself 15 years is I don't use that word anymore, because I'm just finding it is belabored, and it has so much baggage that comes with it. Sometimes I use the word regenerate, but most of the time I use the word reimagine. And so because I really believe that what we have an opportunity to do through fashion and through the massive amount of textiles that are getting wasted is that we could also reimagine lives, in, as you've been talking about, and all of you've been talking about. So I have this sort of crazy idea to start a social enterprise that would actually work with the textiles that are unused and find different ways of repurposing them. But the designers themselves would come from homeless shelters, would come from prisons, would come from the fringes. Those, for an example, I think in Canada, one of the resources that could best design a winter coat would be a homeless person. Because I'm using that terminology only, not because I want to call that, because I don't like labels, but I think it's working. If we're going to work with textiles that need a new life, why can't we also work with people who need a new life, and to do it systematically? And all the work you're doing in South Africa, Tracy, with the women and in terms of providing new possibilities. I'm doing a project in Malawi right now with women and looking at how we do something like this. But it's a fascinating thing to try and get people's heads around. I've been at Change for 40 years. Heads around a different kind of concept when you want to mix together, and it comes to the thing what Rupa was saying, when you want people to think about, oh no, I think maybe it was Camilla, it's not just environment, it's not just society, it's not just economy, it's everything. And that fashion, reimagining fashion, could become a really, as it is what you're doing, but to get a movement going, so it's not just niche. That it is a way of, because it's sexy, it's cool. People, everybody needs clothing, but it's also tapping into the people who would not necessarily be involved in fashion design, who would not be involved in redefining what we wear, how we wear things, So anyway, that's my crazy idea that I just wanted to share.
So Hillary, it's not a crazy idea. It's a good idea. We receive fabric from our retail partners as well. So what we do is we recruit women into the program, smaller program. We have about 40 women who they are seamstresses. They can sew. We don't teach sewing, but we have access to all this excess fabric. And now what's happened is one of our ladies is making scrunchies, and she's actually supplying one of the retail partners, because a different program that we do is also on appliance side, where we teach unemployed men how to repair appliances. And that particular retailer is now going to be taking the scrunchies into their store. So that's where the collaboration is so important as well. So there's definitely amazing opportunities.
Thank you.
So Hillary, I would also like to input. So we also work with the rescue homes, shelter homes, and genuine centers and everywhere. We help them the opportunity of the upcycle fashion business, So we go there and I personally go there and I share the story and the challenges and help them to realize their vision. So day before yesterday, I got a call from one of the NGO, those who are looking for this project. So they said that one lady, she was talking with the mental health people, and they said that I like what she liked it, that the Bhavini has shared that story and that got the inspiration. I can still do it. They don't have any vision, they can't do anything, and all of a sudden they got the something. So this inspires us. Fashion sustainability is not only that, but it helps the other people to reach to their vision also.
Beautiful. Beautiful. I did a project 2 years ago in a federal penitentiary here in Canada, women's penitentiary, and I co-designed an entrepreneurial program with them. And it was fascinating because what we did was we talked about how incarceration was their mentor. It wasn't their barrier, and how the mental health issues that had brought them into the institution were also inspirations for mobilizing business ideas. And there were, out of all the business ideas, I would say 50% were fashion related. And it was how fashion could become a vehicle of advocacy around mental health, around redefining lives. And I think that this is all part of what you're doing. It's that advocacy role of really mobilizing a different understanding of who we are, and a different understanding of how we contribute to the world, and a different understanding of what our lives can be like, and how fashion can be, what an incredible vehicle for that, and moving into all the other areas you've talked about. So thank you. I just want to thank you so much for the work you're doing. It's absolutely fabulous.
Thank you. Thank you, Hillary. And any other comments on that? There's another comment in the chat, and I don't know if you want to expand on this, but it says, for sustainable fashion to help accelerate the SDGs, to Rupa's point, governments around the world need to endorse the topic. For instance, in India, there is a reservation for technology-driven companies to set up their bases in corporate areas. It's called a special economic zone. I would make the case for similar economic zones to be created for sustainability. SEZ2, perhaps, where sustainable and creative manufacturers are invited / allowed to set up their offices. There should also be malls created around the world where only recyclers and sustainable organizations around the world are invited to set up offices. The case of Re-Tuna in Sweden, yeah, I did see that, comes to mind. The world's first mall dedicated to the cause. Would love to hear thoughts on sustainable economic zones. Any thoughts on that from anyone?
I think that's very much part of the lobbying bit which I was talking about, because yes, not only here, of course, in India, we have those economic special zones and subsidies, but it's all over the world. I mean, industry and business have basically flourished because of government support, right? I mean, they did get, of course, there's a lot of entrepreneurship, etc., everything, but primarily investments and talent, you can't deny that, but a lot of it is through governments. And yes, definitely asking for these kind of special, very, very specific needs to be addressed. And yeah, if someone listens, I know that in West Bengal, we have a very supportive government that really supports the weavers of Bengal and the artisans, etc. I mean, currently we have a very supportive government. So you see the difference there. You see the difference that how retail spaces are opened up, exhibitions are opened up, and they are concerned. Like we at Sasha, we have a development organization and our the market or business organization. So to this, I think they've collaborated with us to work in particular communities, etc. And also, I think that is one way to get a leg in through the door, a foot in through the door. And I think Gautam, I personally feel to get people to sit around the table globally, I mean, we've seen COP26, and then to arrive at, what kind of support they can give and sustain this. It probably doesn't work as well as if you really take it up in your own countries. This is totally my view. I mean, this is totally my view. And yes, so, and this again, why I brought the West Bengal example in, because I think it would be specific to governments, and in our case to state governments, and maybe there's another dynamic in another country which gives, so even how you approach the government, like in the EU, I mean, it's supposed to be taking care of things globally, but it does get, it does address the needs of Europe, even if it has global programs. The thing is, yeah. So I don't know if I'm making sense, Gautam, because this is something that I'm just shooting from the top of my head. But yeah, there's something there, because the idea of lobbying and getting government attention is to take the sector seriously. I think that's one of the challenges. I mean, we are not just a sideshow. Small enterprises are making a big difference in the communities in which they work. It's employment, it's empowerment. I mean, to Hillary's point, all of us are working with the most marginalized, or the vulnerable, the underserviced. That's the job we are doing, and collectively. So and again, Hillary, I mean, when a designer goes out there, it's always at least because in the sector with master craftsmen and very talented women, it always is a co-creation. But for the government to recognize that they are adding to the GDP, it is taking care of employment, it is creating well-being or abundance in particular areas, and then giving it more support. So anyhow, I think it is very much on the agenda. And like I said, I'm not a lobbyist. And I don't know how many of us, we're too busy with our day jobs and just meeting for collaborations. Dealing with governments requires different skill sets. I know we have a Neelam Chibber in India, and she's driving this very, very, very much so. And so those are my thoughts. Yes, love to hear more on it from others in the room. Yeah.
Anyone else have thoughts on that?
Yeah, I think it's a great idea, because one of the biggest challenges micro enterprises have is that the cost of rental of space. So if there was an area where people could work and didn't have to pay them thousands and thousands of rands a month for rent, this could work really well for them.
Yeah, so it's that, kind of issue, and then also having a space to collaborate. But then also, I think a lot of times citizens that want to support sustainable, ethical businesses don't know who they are, or don't have access to that type of thing, or maybe they just don't know good places to get resale, or other things. So having something like that, it will help to raise awareness. But then also it will help to serve as a hub for people to know who actually they can go out to that have sustainable, ethical practices. Okay. Any other comments on that? I do see something in the chat from Stephen He says we're looking for a global list of sustainable fashion brand incubators / accelerators to add to a blog post. We will publish with our nearly 100 articles on impact via e-commerce. So any suggestions for that? If anyone wants to put it in the chat or say it out loud for Stephen, that would be great.
Thanks for giving me a shout out. I appreciate it.
No problem. Yeah, and I think that is interesting because there's so many resources out there, but where is there one place, and maybe that is within this collaboration, where people can go and say, okay, here are all the actual sustainable ethical brands, or here are people that you can collaborate with, or here are the accelerator programs or funding programs. And so that's one of the things that we hope as a collaboration, that we can be that resource and help to, you know, get resources to people. Any other comments or questions or anything from anyone? Okay, so what I would like to do just at this time is to have some closing thoughts from our panelists. It would be great, you know, just about overall, if you want to hone in on a specific topic that we talked about that you think is important, or, you know, any other thoughts that you maybe had, or just kind of overall recommendations for people that are on the call today. Did you want to start, Rupa? Yeah,
I think this has been a great discussion. There have been many extremely good points which have come out of it, and I enjoyed Hillary's input very much, and how and there's a comment on our chat which says that, yeah, it's in the cracks that you find the most innovations. And I'd go a step further. I think people, you watch and see how people improvise, how they use their resources, and then they create, you know, their lives. So I would say that what would be interesting is for each of us to think about this hard, because there have been many action points that have emerged. We've talked about a lot, and what is it that we can do as a group? I mean, what is it that we can do immediately, in the very, very short term, in the slightly medium term, if you like, and I think what will come out of this space really after this discussion is that you need to look for resources. Who are the people who we can collaborate with? Who are the people who can sort of provide the kind of services that SMEs require, the expertise, capability and capacity building, and where can we get that space for markets? You know, for market access. I mean, which are the spaces? And finally, also about the storytelling, and why the storytelling and getting ourselves out there is so important. It's not only to showcase our work, which is important, to engage the customers, but also to how we do it. And here again, I think if we can do it collectively, and it would be huge. And like I keep going back to Fashion Revolution, I never expected it to be so successful and have so many people jump on this campaign, but it obviously is. So we can leverage, you know, that as well. I mean, those are the thoughts that are going through my mind right now.
Yeah, I mean, I think these conversations are great because when we're learning from each other, it helps us make better, healthy choices. So it's a good opportunity to learn and share. And it makes us more efficient, because we all make mistakes. If we feel vulnerable enough to share those mistakes, we'll definitely get on the right path. And there's so much that needs to be done, so much. I mean, in our country, there's a 35% unemployment crisis. And how are we going to, we're not going to find jobs. We have to find self-employment as a solution for people to generate income. So I'm always open to hearing ideas. Idea generation is so important, so that we can share and learn and grow. Yeah.
Bhavani, did you have any closing thoughts?
There is some glitch. So from my side, see, fashion means to make the human pretty, actually making the earth ugly due to the fast fashion, you know. So we have to be conscious customer, producer, everything. Only these things I would like to give back to the people present here. Thank you.
Thank you. And Stephen, thanks for your what you put in the chat, because you're talking about actually sharing this recording. So it is being recorded, and so afterwards, please feel free to share. And I'll put in the chat again, but also reach out to me if you're interested in joining the collaboration and helping to shape this going forward.
Great. Yeah, I'd be glad to post it to some of those groups for you. So if you, I'll make sure to watch for it.
Okay, that sounds great. And if you, we should have if you registered, but I know there are some issues with registration. So if you want to send me your email address, I can definitely send you the link to the recording.
Great, I'll do that
after it's posted. Thanks. Okay. Any other comments from anyone that's here?
We just want to thank you for bringing this all together and coordinating everything and holding the space. Thank you.
I know this was a lot of work, Camilla, and a very special thank you, because you worked on it for weeks. So thank you very much for making it possible, for holding it all together. All enthused about being panelists.
Right.
Thank you so much.
Okay. Yeah, thank you.
Baji, thank you so much. Thank you, Tracy. Lots of learning from you people. Thank you so much.
And I hope our group becomes a little bigger. Yeah. So there's so many. I would love to see more in our group, because that always enriches conversation, and it would be so nice to learn about each other's work. And I always say that, okay, the larger action can happen, but what we take back from the discussions and the meetings, you take it back into your work and in your life, I would say. So it's so important. It's so important to have these meetings. Camilla, when is our next meeting? Do you know? Where do we already have a date?
We haven't set a specific date, but if you send me an email, I will make sure that you're on the list to receive the invitation. And so I'm just going to say out loud, my email address is Camilla@greaterthanequal.com. And so that's KAMILAH@GREATHANEQUAL.com.
Why did you type it? Sorry, Camilla, I interrupted.
Oh, no,
I put it. I did.
I put it in the chat. Yeah, I did put it in the chat, but just in case someone's watching the recording and wants to access. And then also, if anyone knows anyone that would be interested in joining the collaboration, please feel free to forward my email address so people can join the group. And there's not a WhatsApp app group yet, but we could always look into doing that in the future. So thank you, everyone. And that's it for our session. Thank you.